Hello and welcome to Hindi Reading Class 9F. Today we're going to be discussing conjuncts that begin with those things, nasal consonants. But let's move on. So meet Chicken Little. Mr. Chicken Little likes conspiracy theories. And today he has a new conspiracy theory, and that is that the hens are different. Well, I think he means the ends are different, but to us, normal people, the ends look the same, don't they? Well, just to make him feel better, let's go ahead and examine his theory that the hens are different. So, right when you say N in sing, try to push your tongue a little bit into the roof of your mouth, right where your tongue touches your mouth when you say the N in sing. So if you can, try to figure out where your tongue touches your mouth. Sing, sing. So where did your tongue touch inside of your mouth? Well, hopefully this is where it touched. Yeah, this is where it touched. If you couldn't tell that, please convince yourself of the fact that the N touched towards the back of your mouth near your throat. Sing. So right when you say the N in ranch, try to press your tongue a little harder where it touches in your mouth to figure out where your tongue is touching. Ranch. So where did your tongue touch in your mouth when you said the N in ranch? Well, it should have touched there. So the flat part of your tongue is touching the roof of your mouth. And now we're going to say end. And right when you say the N in end, push your tongue a little bit harder where it normally hits. End. End. So where did your tongue touch your mouth when you said the N in end? It should have touched right there. This is very interesting. So the N's really are different because there's three types of N and they're pronounced differently. But if there's three types of N and they're all pronounced differently, how in the world did we know how to say each one differently? Well, where did your tongue touch in your mouth when you say the letter G in sing? Sing. The back of your mouth, your throat. Interesting. So where did your tongue touch in your mouth when you said the CH in ranch? Ranch. The roof of your mouth using the flat part of your tongue, the palate. Where did your tongue touch in your mouth when you said the D in end? Oh, that bump. So, I think we're on to something. So, both the N and the consonant that came after it are pronounced using the same method, the same position of the tongue. That's very interesting. So we could ignore the fact that these are really three different N sounds in English that we're pronouncing. we completely ignore the fact and just pronounce them according to what comes after N. So we pronounce the N in sing according to where our tongue is when we say G. We pronounce the N in ranch according to where our tongue is when we say cha. We pronounce the N in end according to where our tongue is when we say D. So, yes, the hens really are different. Thank you, Chicken Little. So now it's time to realize that in Hindi, there are four different N's, all highlighted in red right there. Four different N sounds. Because these four different N sounds are pronounced with four different tongue positions. The one with the tongue position in the back of the throat, the roof of the mouth, the tip of the tongue touching the area behind the bump on the roof of the mouth, and the tip of the tongue touching the front teeth. So what makes these N sounds anyway? What characterizes an N sound is that when you say an N sound, your nose vibrates. So try that out. When you say the N in end, ranch, or sing, what happens with your nose? You should feel a strong vibration right when you say the N sound. So really, what is an N sound? It's a combination of your tongue touching somewhere in your mouth and air flowing through your nose to create a vibration. That is what an N sound is. And so they're called technically nasal consonants because your nose vibrates. For regular consonants, your nose does not vibrate. These are nasal consonants because your nose vibrates. And so we end up with four different N's in Hindi. Now wait, Chicken Little says, there's one more hen. Huh? Well, M, I think is what he means, is a nasal consonant. And if you say camp, right when you say the M in camp, you will feel your nose vibrate. Camp, camp. So M is also a nasal consonant. But this time, instead of using our tongue, we're using our lips. And even crazier, we see what's happening here. The P is also pronounced using the lips. The M is pronounced using the lips. This is oddly familiar to what we saw before with the N, and whatever came after it were pronounced the same way. Here we have M and P both pronounced the same way. And that is why in English, whenever you have a P or a B and there's a nasal consonant before it, it will always be M. Tomb, bump, rhombus, womb, camp, stump, dump. This is the way our bodies want to pronounce nasal sounds that are joined with other consonants. So technically, if we really wanted to, really wanted to, we could get rid of M in these situations and we could write camp as C-A-N-P. Here, we would just assume that the N is pronounced the same way we pronounce P, which is M. Because when we close our lips, and we push air through our nose, what sound comes out? Yes, we sound like a cow. So this looks awfully familiar. Yes, they are. These are conjuncts. M followed by P, N followed by G, N followed by CH, N followed by D. These are conjuncts. Two consonants back to back with no vowel sound in the middle. So these are conjuncts, but here these are conjuncts that begin with a nasal consonant. So that's what we're talking about today is conjuncts that begin with a nasal consonant. And we learn a trick. What is that trick? That we can use the exact same symbol to represent all of them in a conjunct. We could represent N and M in every conjunct using one symbol if we really wanted to, and we would figure out how to pronounce it correctly because we would pronounce it the natural way. So we're going to apply this to Hindi, and in Hindi, we're going to use one symbol for all nasal conjuncts, consonants, if they come first in a conjunct. So when a conjunct begins with a nasal consonant that you see one of these 5 nasal consonants here, we're going to use one symbol to represent all of them. Why? Because we know how to pronounce it based on what comes afterward. And that symbol is, what is that? It's Mr. Bindu. It's a dot. All these strange dots lying around in Hindi. Mr. Bindu, aka Anuswar. So, therefore, we learned the top way to write Hindi before, but here we're learning the modern way to write Hindi. Yes, the dot method is now the preferred method according to the government of India to write nasal conjuncts, conjuncts that begin with a nasal consonant. So here, Hindi, the n in Hindi is represented by now a dot. Where is that dot, by the way? It's important. I didn't make a slide for it, but where is the dot? The dot is not actually over the D, but it is at the end, hovering over the end of the previous syllable, which is he. So it's kind of riding on the tail of he. Then we have D coming after. And now we learned that we could write unda as above, which is the half na, but this is the preferred method in modern Hindi with the dot. And so that dot represents na. And so this is unda. If we wanted to write the English word king, we would do it this way. When that dot would represent the N in king. Where is that N pronounced? The same place we pronounce the in the back of the throat. King. If we wanted to write the English word crunch, we could do it this way with a dot. And so the na sound in crunch is now represented by a dot. And how do we pronounce that na sound? Exactly the same way that we pronounce cha, crunch. In other words, just to be clear here, this last little weird squiggly thing, oh, by the way, we never mentioned why that last little weird squiggly thing we haven't learned before. That is the N sound that is pronounced at the back of the throat. Notice that. It is the N sound that is pronounced at the back of the throat, but so are all the other sounds that we have there on this line. Ga, ka, ga, gha, they're all pronounced using the throat. Now this is the N sound pronounced using the throat. Why in the world haven't we learned this before? Well, that is because that sound doesn't exist independently in Hindi. It is only found in dun, da, da, Conjuncts, only found as the first letter in a conjunct, followed by ka, ka, ga, and gha. Therefore, we never have to write this letter in Hindi. Now, in Nepali and other languages, you will see this. But because in modern Hindi, we prefer the dot, you will never see that letter, so you never have to learn it because it will always be the dot. So when we combine it with ka, ka, ga, and gha, we end up with a dot hovering over the previous syllable followed by one of these four. Yes, I did all that explanation only for the teacher to come and tell us again that only appears in conjuncts as the first part of a conjunct. There you will only ever see Mr. Bindu. Thank you very much. Well, I guess she has to get paid, so she had to make that public service announcement. So, in other words, we have these four sounds cha, cha, ja, and cha, and then we have the end sound pronounced in the same way as those, using the flat part of our tongue, cha. And so when we combine this weird shape that looks like a Lego hand, you've never seen this before, by the way, and that was on purpose. Why? Because na only appears as the first letter in conjunct. So in modern Hindi, you will never see this letter. Now, in old Hindi, very, very old stuff, or in Nepali and other languages, you will see it. However, in India, the government has given this character a permanent vacation. Thank you. Because Legos apparently are only for play, not for fun. Wait, not for work. Anyway, so we have the na sound combined with ja, cha, ja, and ja, and it takes the form of what? The dot. How do we know how to pronounce the dot? Because we pronounce it the same way as what comes after it, ja, cha, ja, and cha. You know this one. And you will notice that these sounds too are pronounced using the tip of the tongue touching the roof of the mouth. Da, ta, da, and da behind the bump, where we normally touch in English, a little bit behind that. And so when we're combining these two, whoop, we get the dot. Mr. Bindu Anuswar, aka Dot Man. And so he is there hovering over the previous syllable. How do we know how to pronounce him? Well, we know how to pronounce da, ta, da, and da. If you don't know how to pronounce those, I don't think you should be watching this lesson. Next, we know Mr. Na. Remember way back when we said that Mr. Na is pronounced using the tip of the tongue touching the teeth. This is why we taught you that way back when, because when we combine him with the, ta, da, and ta, also letters that are pronounced with the tip of the tongue touching the teeth and nowhere else, not the roof of your mouth, nowhere else, it will mess up the sound. Then we have the dot again. Dot, 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 dot. Mr. Anuswar, aka Bindu, aka Dot Man, hovering over the previous syllable. When we join these two together, we get the dot. How do we know how to pronounce the dot? Well, we know how to pronounce da, ta, da, and da. And so we pronounce the dot, Anuswar, Mr. Bindu, in the same exact way. And now we get to Mr. Ma. Ma also has friends that are pronounced the same way. Ba, pa, ba, and pa. And so when we combine these together, then what shape does ma take? he becomes Anuswar, aka Bindu, aka Dot Man. Hovering over the previous syllable, how do we know how to pronounce Mr. Dot? Well, we know how to pronounce pa, pa, ba, and pa. And so that dot is really a M sound, because M is the sound we make with our lips, the same way like pa, pa, ba, and pa. This is also logical. It's becoming like math class. However, this is not possible. We cannot combine these two. Why? Because it's just not natural. It's not natural. We have limitations according to the way our mouth is made. Take it up with the creator. And so a nasal consonant can only be joined after other consonants pronounced the same way on the same line. We're going to talk about this a little bit later. Hopefully, 1 plus 1 is making 2, and 2 plus 2 is making 4. So, Mr. Savdhan India, thank you for warning us that we're now reading in a different order. Before, we were reading left to right, normally, magar. Now, when we introduce the re and the ra, sometimes we had to read up and down because we have ka followed by re, followed by pa. We have ka joined with ra, up to down, followed by ma, kram. And now then we have sha, and then we have ra joined with ma, the little rodent on the top line. And so we have to read left to right, and then start at the top with ra and end with ma. So we have sharm. But now, oh well, not now yet. And then in one case we had backwards, which was e, pitta. And that is the weirdo case. This man spitting on the following letter. Yes, thank you. But now we have to read bottom to top. We're actually reading upwards because that little dot kind of hangs out on the tail of what it's pronounced after. So here we have sun, dar, an, dar, hin, di. It's really not, well, yes, it is kind of bottom to top, but it's kind of sitting on the trunk of the previous character. So how do we pronounce this? Now it's your time. How do we pronounce this? If you hadn't noticed, that dot is na. Why? Because ta is pronounced with the tip of the tongue touching the teeth, and so we have chin ta, chinta. How do you pronounce this? Well, that dot is that sound we don't know. It is the end sound pronounced at the back of the throat, along with ga. And so we have sung. If you notice at the end of words, ga kind of takes a different sound, doesn't it? More like it kind of disappears a little bit. Anyway, so we have sung. How do you pronounce this? Well, this is the same way. So one thing to notice here is that we have to say changa. So no, don't forget the after cha. So after that after cha, after the ch sound, we have cha. Now we can say the n sound in the throat, followed by ga. So this is changa, changa, changa. Don't forget Mr. Mr. Ugly Duckling does not take being ignored lightly. He's already been chopped out of so many things. Okay, so how do you pronounce this? So we know how to pronounce this. based on what comes after it, which is da. And so da is pronounced with the tip of the tongue touching the roof of the mouth behind the bump. And so that would be yes, him. That's pronounced the same way. So this would be pronounced kund. Remember, you don't want to leave out a. Kund, a, kund. And you notice the na and the da are stuck together because that's what we did. We created a conjunct. Kund. How do you pronounce this? Well, how do we pronounce that, Mr. Bindu? Well, we know how to pronounce Mr. Bindu because right after him, he's joined to ba. And so the nasal consonant that is joined with ba, that is pronounced in the same way as boo, ba 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 ba, is ma. And so the first syllable is ta, followed by a M sound linked with boo. So now we have tambu, tambu, tambu. How do you pronounce this? In a similar way, we know what Mr. Bindu is because following Mr. Bindu is ba. And so ba is pronounced with the lips. And so this has to be ma because that's just natural. So this becomes la mba, lamba, 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 lamba. How do we pronounce this? Well, if you notice, it is cha that is joined with the Mr. Bindu. And so cha is pronounced at the roof of the mouth. We're just going to pronounce it that way then. So it's Miss Legoland. So this is munch, munch, munch. You got it? Ma, followed by a N sound, pronounced the same way as cha. So if you think about it in English, we could write this as maybe MANCH, and we would know what to do because we've been ignoring what we've actually been doing in English for so long it comes naturally. But here you're learning it once. So how do you pronounce this? So how do we pronounce this dot? What is this dot exactly? Well, we know what comes after it. Now it's not Mr. A. What comes after it is the. And so this dot is joined with the. And so this is an N sound pronounced with the tip of your tongue touching your top front teeth and nowhere else. Ding, 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 ding. And you get 10 free. So what is it coming after though? So it's coming after sha, right? So sha, the na, followed by ti. And so then we have shanti, shanti. How do we pronounce this? Well, we see the dot, and so we are assuming that the na sound here is joined with what comes after it, which is da, which is pronounced with the tip of the tongue touching the roof of the mouth. And so this would be, oh, that's wrong. That would be na. And so this is ghanta, ghanta. Remember, we don't want to leave off Mr. Ugly Duckling. So the first syllable is gha, followed by an N sound pronounced the same way as ta, ghanta. How do we pronounce this? So we see Mr. Dot there, and we're thinking that Mr. Dot must be a conjunct combined with da, and we know we pronounce the in da with the tip of our tongue touching our teeth and nowhere else in our mouth, and so he must be ding 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 ding. And so we have followed by an N sound followed by das, and so this is undas, undas. Where are we pronouncing it? With the tip of our tongue touching our top front teeth and nowhere else. Undas. So how would we pronounce this? So we pronounce this as well, where we pronounce z. And so this is manzur, manzur. How do we pronounce this? Well, the dot is an N sound pronounced similar to the place where we pronounce. So this is insan, insan, insan. If you haven't noticed up to now, so it's time to realize that the Hindi alphabet, aka Devanagari, is actually organized by tongue position. And so this is alphabetical order for Devanagari. And it starts in the back of the mouth with the tongue pressing the back of the mouth. And so we have the sounds ka, ka, ga, gha, and nga, right? And then we're going a little bit further in the mouth, which is the flat part of the tongue touching the roof of the mouth. And so we have cha, cha, ja, ja, and nya, right? If you want to notice something else a little funny, is that it is also, well, we'll come back to that a little later. We move a little bit further in the mouth, and now we have the tip of the tongue touching behind the bump near the front of the mouth, and we have da, ta, da, da, and na. Then we move a little bit further, and we have the tip of the tongue touching the teeth of the mouth and nowhere else, and then we have da, ta, da, da, and na. We go a little bit further, what's left? We have our lips. So our lips closed give us ba, pa, ba, ba, and ma, and fa. And so you notice that the alphabet is actually organized from back of the mouth, middle of the mouth, front of the mouth, lips, and then everything else. Very scientific, isn't it? Even more scientific. Want to get more scientific. So split this alphabet in half. We're just going to look at the first two. Touch your throat and then say ka, 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 cha, cha, da, ta, da, ta. And then say ga, gha, ja, ja, da, 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 da. You'll notice that your throat vibrated more for the last two. And so what we have is non-vibrators of the throat come first, and then the stronger vibrating sounds come afterward. So interesting. And even with ba and pa and ba and ba, we see more vibration with ba and ba. So the alphabet is extremely scientifically organized, and that's why all Indians say, "This, you must learn the alphabet first in this form." That is a really, I don't know what accent that was, but it came out. You must learn the alphabet in this form, only in this form. Unfortunately, for English speakers, learning it from beginning to end is rough because you have to teach a lot before you get to pronouncing. even ka and ga. So I skipped this until now. Who organized it like this? Well, it was a man called Panini. He was a Sanskrit grammarian who was very good at organization. And so here, tongue position, back of the throat. Line number 2, tongue position, middle of the mouth. Line number 3, tongue position, tip of the tongue touching behind the bomb proof of the mouth. Line number 4, tongue position, touching the teeth. We're trying to escape the mouth. Number 5, tongue position. No tongue position, lip position. And so now that you understand this, hopefully you'll be able to find words in the dictionary a little bit easier. You actually don't have to memorize the order, except until you get to line number 6 and 7. So you don't have to memorize the order. You can cheat by remembering where in your mouth you're touching. And so now we ask the question, how do you pronounce this? Be careful. Sabdhan raho. Mr. Sabdhan India says that this cannot be a N or a M. Why? Why can't this be a N or a M? We just learned about the dot representing N or M, and he's saying it's not. And I don't know. Something's fishy. Maybe we need to call Chicken Little back. Well, the entire purpose of this class was to talk about conjuncts. And a conjunct is when we join two consonants together. In this case, in this particular class, we're talking about joining nasal consonants, N and M sounds, to something else. But look at this line. Look at it. Where's the conjunct that's supposed to come after it? I mean, where's the consonant that's supposed to come after? If a pa came after, this would be ma. If a ta came afterward, this would be na. If a ta came afterward, this would be na. But there's nothing after it. And so this is not a conjunct. This is something we haven't seen yet. What is that something? Well, we'll talk about that in exactly 2 lessons.